Am I the asshole for telling niece I prefer my real name to a nickname? My youngest niece, Raven, recently entered 2nd grade and was filling out an identity and names worksheet. It was pretty much about family members. You talk to 3 family friends about their identity. Raven asked to call me on Skype and talk about her worksheet. She asked if I had kids, what I did for a job, etc. At the very end, she said, I already knew this question, I filled it out when we first started. I asked her what the question was. She said, your name is Worley. I tell everyone my aunt has a cool name. I told her, nicely, that my name is actually Winona and she is the only one who calls me Worley minus my sister. And my sister only calls me Worley when talking about me to Raven. Raven got confused and I said, when you were little, you could not pronounce Winona and said Worley instead. Your mom thought it was so cute. Raven asked if everyone calls me Worley, because it was cute. I told her honestly, everyone calls me Winona including the other nephews because I don't use a nickname outside of Winnie. Everyone I know calls me Winona. Just like everyone calls you Raven. My niece finished her homework, talked about her school day, and we said goodbye. The next day my sister called me in a fit of rage, saying I ruined her daughter's whole night because she called me Aunt Winona instead of Worley. My sister then explained that when Raven called Uncle Top my brother Christopher, she asked him, do you like being called Uncle Top, and when he said, actually, if you want to know, I go by Chris. So now Raven is upset the other adults have told her they dislike the nicknames. And while I thought it was cute when she was little, I kind of hated the nickname. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. All you did was tell her your real name. So did her uncle. Raven had to learn eventually. Nta your sister Seema to be the problem not Raven. The kid probably just registered the name change and asked the next ones and that is it. I doubt the kid had a meltdown or anything about the name. You can even tell Raven that Winona is a pretty cool name too, it's not that common and there are famous people that share you name. Not the asshole. I understand children have a hard time pronouncing things, but as they get older it's okay to set boundaries with preferred names and pronouns etc. I don't think you did anything wrong, you just gave her your preference and prepared her for the real world. I'd be curious to know how old Raven is, but it won't change the answer. Not the asshole, you were perfectly nice in your answer. Not the asshole. If your sister has a problem with it, I'm sure you can think of a lot of nicknames to start calling her. Not the asshole, the only asshole I see is your sister, it's her fault her daughter is upset just because she thinks a name is cute doesn't mean the other person has to go by it. You did nothing wrong, it was your sister, she should have taught her daughter that people have different preferences and when someone say they don't want to go by something you don't throw a fit, your sister should have taught her daughter it's not on you. Also, what is your niece's age? Not that it would change my vote but just curious. Not the asshole. It's a good thing you gently told her this now. I know a lady whose entire family have called her Fufa for 25 years because her niece couldn't pronounce her name as a child. It's ridiculous, tears of joy. Not the asshole, I used to call my Uncle Peter Uncle Sausage for some reason and he hated it but I never knew because no one told me. Woman shrugging light skin tone, you're teaching Raven to respect boundaries by telling her you prefer your real name. A couple of years ago I received a Facebook friend request from someone I didn't know. My response was that I'm sure we were related, she had my mum's maiden name but I didn't know who she was. Turns out it was my aunt. She was born the year that Bambi was released in cinemas. Because she had brown eyes, her dad called her Bambi. And that's the only name I'd ever known her as. A bit embarrassing that at 49 several I had no idea of my aunt's actual name. Not the asshole. Not the asshole, you and everyone else have the right to be called by the nickname you individually preferred. Your sister though is most definitely thinking only about herself situation. She should learn from your niece how to behave like a decent adult. Your niece asking other relatives how they each preferred to be called is a very mature move and shows that she is learning from experience even though she wasn't wrong in the first place. Clapping hands, medium light skin tone. Not the asshole, the problem here isn't that you don't like your nickname, it's that your sister insisted your niece call you something you didn't like because she thought it was cute. Your niece is long past the age where she could not pronounce your name or her uncle's name. She is sad because she has been calling you something you did not like, even though it isn't her fault. Your sister, on the other hand, is the asshole for being angry about it. It shows bad parenting that she would keep her daughter doing inconsiderate things because of the cuteness factor. Your poor niece for having your sister as a mom. Not the asshole. Raven sounds like a very sweet kid, especially with asking her uncle afterwards, so I'd make sure she knew you aren't upset she called you Aunt Worley. Not the asshole. You were very polite and patient in telling her that you preferred to be called by your given name. Not the asshole. Our youngest niece is the same age, we had to go through something similar with her uncle, my sister-in-law was more upset than the kid was. The sister never even explained how that ruined her night. I think it's a good social thing for her to learn at 7 years old. That not everyone likes or is comfortable with given nicknames. It will help her with making friends. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. How long was your sister expecting her kid to go before learning the real names of her own family members? Did she think her daughter would still be calling you Worley and Top in her mid-teens? 20s? The rest of your lives, far from being upset, your sister should be glad that her daughter is making an effort to call you and her uncle by the names you prefer. It shows that she's thoughtful and considerate. Not the asshole. I didn't find out until I was 12 my aunt's name is actually Suzanne. I always called her Auntie Zan, but everyone calls her Zan. Because she wants to be called that. Nothing wrong with liking your name. Not the asshole. You're allowed to be called what you want as long as you're respectful about it. Not the asshole. You were just being honest. She was interviewing you. I actually laughed at your sister's behavior. What a complete overreaction for something so basic as someone's proper name. Your niece seemed to be excited to learn something new about you. Nah. Some people like to call by their proper name, Robert instead of Bob or Robbie. Some people get nicknames that they get as a small child. My friend Gerbil got his name from an uncle when he was a baby. The nickname stuck. His dad calls him Jerby. My adult nieces still call me Uncle Packet. They couldn't pronounce my proper name when they were young. The most famous person I can think of is Buzz Aldrin. His brother couldn't pronounce brother, so he called him Buzzer. Buzzer became Buzz. I love my nickname. Your call. I like the name Uncle Top. Not the asshole. And your niece sounds cool. The fact that she took on board what you said about your name so thought to ask her uncle is thoughtful and really sweet. Not the asshole. Fair enough when it's a toddler learning to speak, but if she's old enough to fill out a worksheet, she's old enough for you to tell her you'd actually prefer to be called by your names properly. Ridiculous coddling from her mom. Not the asshole. Raven is 7. She can learn people's name and pronounce them. I thought she was gonna be 2 or something. You told her this in a polite way and I think your sister is pissed, because her daughter is growing up. Jesus Christ. Your sister needs to give you a break. You took the time out of your day to connect with your niece. You spent quality time. It's not like you told her that she's going to eventually die and so will every single person, plant, animal, and thing she's ever loved. All you did was explain that a very innocent mistake was made and corrected it gently. Not the asshole. I had a friend who called her Aunt Phoebe. We were in grade school. Her aunt took us to the store and I called her Phoebe because that's all I knew her by. She got upset and told my friend that her name isn't Phoebe and to stop calling her that. I was so confused. And her name wasn't even close to Phoebe. But every time I see her somewhere she's Phoebe in my head. Your sister wants her daughter to call people names they don't like. She should have a discussion with Phoebe, not Phoebe. Not the asshole. That's significant other. Raven. Not the asshole. The only asshole here is your sister who is making this into a thing when it doesn't need to be a thing. Raven is going to be upset for a while. It's natural. No one likes being told that what they're doing is wrong. Even when it's not a big deal and no one really minds that much. It's still going to sting a little. And that's okay. It's a part of growing up. All your sister had to do was matter-of-factly explain that sometimes people don't like it when we give them nicknames, so it's always important to ask them what they want to be called. Instead she threw a mini tantrum about it, trying to act like you'd done something wrong, rolls eyes. Not the asshole. Isn't this what it's all about? Telling someone calmly and rationally what you'd prefer. Why do people react like this? If my family had dealt with me like this my whole childhood would have been much easier to navigate. Even now my niece reminds her mother that you have out and out tell her what you want, hinting vaguely will fly over her head. We're not young, it's not new. Edit autocorrect. I think that this simple homework task and your response taught her something really valuable, that you are an adult in her life who will tell her the truth, even if it is a bit uncomfortable, and that you will take the time to give an explanation. That makes you a great aunt and not the asshole. Your sister is trying to protect her child, but she is in the wrong here. Her daughter is starting to show some awareness of her family members outside of their relationship to her, i.e. as separate thinking individuals. She should be encouraging this because kids who learn this become better adults. Just ignore her, ask your niece to start calling you Aunt Winona and let it blow over. Not the asshole. I've been known by my initials PB if you're curious since I was 16, quite a few decades have passed and I'm so used to it I don't answer to my first name and have to think twice when filling out an official form. My occasional problem is the opposite. Someone asks my name, I tell them and they immediately ask, "No, what's your real name?" I've just bloody told them but they want to call me something else. It speaks volumes about the person I'm talking to. But damn, that kid has a cool name. Raven. Not the asshole. I believe this is your sister's problem and maybe she's getting annoyed because it appears she lied to her kid. Encourage this and your niece might be slightly embarrassed because she honestly didn't know and your sister is taking it out on you. Like my brother-in-law has a name my kid can't pronounce so he's Uncle Gray, but when we talk about him, I'll say, yes that's what we call him but his real name is ____, so she doesn't get confused if she hears someone else say it or for when she can pronounce it properly. Not the asshole. It sounds like your sister is trying to baby her daughter for as long as possible as she is the youngest. This is only cute up to a point. At 7, she needs to learn to speak properly. Not the asshole. Was your sister a bully? I don't get her rage about disliked nicknames. Not the asshole. I have a nickname too. My first niece couldn't pronounce Vicky when she was learning to talk, so I somehow became Mimi. That stuck and now all 5 of my niece's ANS nephews call me Mimi. My dad is Babo, B-Bo. Like a bee wearing a bow tie, not granddad or grandpa or anything. The older kids know our real names, but the difference is, we don't mind the nicknames. You do. You didn't have a tantrum, you weren't rude, you didn't even start the conversation about your name, your niece did. Then she went on to ask your brother's preference. She is being a lovely, kind little girl by going by what you prefer. Not the asshole. Childish lisp nicknames are cute from very small children. However, they must pass in time. My second daughter was a late talker and called her sister Gabby well and herself 81 Adrian and later Edie. All those have gone away. We only occasionally mention them in passing as "aw, so cute" memory. But as names in use, they are done. And that's okay. Your niece will recover. Also, the nicknames would likely have gone away on their own if adults hadn't reinforced them. This is so not Raven. Not the asshole. Kids grow up, and cute mistakes cease being cute. And they learn the correct words. Not the asshole. The only one is your sister. You and Chris allowed your niece to call you something that you didn't necessarily like because it was easy for her and just let it stick. You never made her feel bad but let it be this thing for her growing up. You are a good person, so is your brother. Your niece is precious. She called you what she thought was your name, and when she learned she was wrong and you prefer a different name she stopped calling you the different name. And not just in front of you, but in all situations. She has empathy, respect, and kindness. And then she called other aunts and uncle to find out about their names. I have a huge feeling that Raven isn't actually upset, but your sister is a shit disturber. Ruined her daughter's night or hers? Your sister needs to grow up and learn to respect what others want. Not the asshole. Let the second grader have her fun. Why does it matter so much to you if she calls you by a nickname? My little sister called me Dita when she was little because she couldn't pronounce my real name, Melinda. After a while it evolved into Dita, which I absolutely hated, spurred in large part because my brothers thought it was hilarious and mocked me endlessly about it. Well, after some time, she was maybe 3 or 4, I finally got fed up with being called Diduck and I exasperatedly yelled, "My name is Melinda." She blinked at me for a minute or so and then finally said, "Minda." And I said, "Close enough." Finding out my real name didn't scar her for life. Not the asshole. Not the asshole, but your sister definitely overreacted. My bet is that Raven felt confused, and then guilty for calling people she loves by names they don't like. Your sister likely stewed on it all night and let her protective feelings for her daughter to get way out of hand. Definitely have another chat with Raven and be sure she understands that you're not mad about it. Some anti-bonding time might be very beneficial here. Not the asshole. I still have a nickname because my twin sister couldn't pronounce my name. It's not hard, 5 letters 2 syllables. Hers is also 5 letters 2 syllables. Aside from her learning how to say my name from whenever we were learning to talk, I don't remember this, she has never called me it. My dad on the other hand uses the name more than my real one because he finds it so cute. I've told him many times to stop and I don't like it. I told him I like my real name, one he and my mom chose together, better. He got upset every time and still uses the nickname unless he's mad at me. He is the only one in the family that uses it. I love how the child took it better than the so-called adult, not the asshole. Why do I think Raven is clever than her mom? Not the asshole. When I was little, like toddler little, I called my grandmother Nanny. All the older grandkids called her Granny, but I guess my toddler ears weren't hearing that. When I was 5 maybe. My older brother sat me down and said, "Look bitter, her name is Granny. You need to stop calling her Nanny and call her by the right name." So I did. And wasn't traumatized by the conversation. Shrug word sounds are hard. As you get older, if you don't correct yourself, it's up to those around you correct you. Not the asshole. Not only did Raven learn an important lesson that was relevant to her class, respect what people would like to be called, but it was a message that sunk in deep enough that she called another family member to ensure she wasn't making the same mistake. I'm sure it was a little disappointing to find out that she had been being humored and the nicknames she used didn't stick, but the keyword is little. The fact that she handled it well enough to call her uncle proves that she's gonna be fine. Her mom is way blowing this out of proportion.